Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jason. Today we are back working on the Surplus Suburban Part 4. We're gonna do some general maintenance slash make sure I have all of the equipment that I may need. In this situation, I want to make sure all of the spare tire changing equipment is in the truck. And I'm also going to finally get a radio installed into this thing so we have some music when we're going down the road. And we're going to vacuum out the back and get it tidied up a bit as well, get all the plastics put back where they go, and I'll show you why I have them out and what we're doing along the way. Let's get into this thing. I got about 45 minutes, maybe an hour to work on this, so I'm trying to get as much done, squeeze it in where I can. Let's go. Okay, so I pulled out the plastic trim on this side because the jack stuff wasn't where it was supposed to be. It was just thrown down here in the empty space, and there's a bunch of stuff rattling around. So I got the jack out. I got it put back on its little holder how it's supposed to be. I got the tools, put them back in their little protective cover here that stops them from rattling, put that back where they're supposed to be. In my case, this truck has aftermarket wheels and tires on it, and the factory lug wrench does not fit, but the government or whoever had this thing before me left a little universal auto parts store 4-way lug wrench in here that does fit. So I'm going to keep that in here also, just so I have it when I need it. If I need it, hopefully I never do, but if I do, I'll be okay. So just tidying that up to make sure that's there and ready if or when I ever need it. I'm going to vacuum real quick, and then I'm going to get the plastic side cover put back over here where it goes and get all that put back together, and then I'm going to finish vacuuming out the back half of the truck here, and then we're going to jump and do the radio. Saw I got the back of the truck put back together, the back of the Suburban. I'm happy with it now. The sand and dirt in there, the inside has been bed lined, so the sand and dirt is kind of ground into it. I think at some point I'll probably get like a brush and just brush it out with some soapy water just to get it super clean, but for the time being it's good to go. The next thing I want to do is get a radio in it and see if the radio works. So the way I like to install radios, I see them all the time that people just cut the factory connector out of the harness and then splice their aftermarket radio wires in. What I like to do is get the factory radio adapter plug. Okay, and I got this one on Amazon. It fits this year truck. This part plugs directly into the factory connector that would have plugged into the back of the factory radio. And then you can see it has all the wires that come out. And part of the reason that I really like these is these wire color code match these wire color code. So I don't have to guess which ones are for speakers and which ones are power and which ones are switched power. This plug adapter is literally color coded the same way as the radio plug adapter. It also makes it easy for me to do a nice job with all my cutting and splicing right here on the bench. I can cut the wires, or really all I need to do is strip the wires on this radio connector and then splice them onto my adapter wires. when I do this, a lot of people really like to solder. A lot of people use just butt connectors. The way I like to do wiring in vehicles is I like to use these little non-insulated butt connectors and then insulate them with heat shrink tubing. It's a nice solid connection. You don't need any fancy tools to do it. I mean, you can heat the heat shrink tubing with a lighter if that's all you have handy. I have a heat gun, which I think does a really nice job. But the heat shrink tubing assortment, the non-insulated connector assortment, this radio adapter, I get all this stuff on Amazon. I mean, I think the adapter was $7 or $8. This assortment, geez, I bought this like 6 months ago. I think it was $7 or $8. And same with these. I think it was $5 or $6 for all this stuff. And I can't tell you, like I said, I think I've been using it for about 6 months now. And you can see I still have plenty of connectors left. So I'm going to go through, get my radio wires connected to my adapter wires here, get my connections all done, everything nice and tidy. And then I'm going to get it plugged into the truck and see if I can get some radio working in this thing. Assuming I plug it in and everything works the way it's supposed to, then I'll get this harness wrapped in a little bit of loom just to keep it neat and tidy. And then I'll get it put in permanently. So we've got our speaker wires are all connected like they should be. Blue here, dark blue is for a power antenna. Yellow is for your 12 volt constant. Radio has this so it can save like your presets and all of that stuff. Red is for your switched 12 volts. Orange in the harness here is illumination, so it controls the dimmer, the brightness. That goes to brown on this radio, but a lot of times it's orange on the radio side too. Black is ground. So in the truck side connector, I still have this brown wire left. That's unused on my radio. It doesn't have anything to use that connection. And on the radio side harness, I have the remote wire left, which the remote is typically used for to turn an amplifier on and off if you have an additional aftermarket amplifier. So when I have extra unused wires, I just slip a little bit of heat shrink over them on the end, just because I don't want that power wire, especially this remote wire, which I know is going to have 12 volts fed into it by the radio. I don't want that to short out on anything. So I throw a little heat shrink over that. And then same on this brown. I can't remember what it is on the truck side, but like I said, I know I'm not using it. So I put a little heat shrink over that as well and just warm it to shrink it down. So now I don't have to worry about those wires touching anything and shorting out. So I've got my harness all connected up here. The other thing that I really like about this, I can't remember if I mentioned it already or not, but literally all I have to do now is plug this end into the truck connector and slide my radio into place. I don't have to deal with reaching into that little radio hole and trying to cut and splice wires inside of there. I was able to do all my splicing and cutting right here on the bench where it's convenient and easy to get to. And now all I have to do is plug the connector in, slide the radio into place, and then hit the key and make sure everything works. So that's what we're going to go do now. All right, everybody. So we're back out here in the truck. I apologize that the lighting is not very good. I promise as soon as I'm able, I want to get some better lights. So this is my wire harness connector adapter. This is the factory radio connector. You can see they plug right into each other. And there's my 12 volt battery power energizing the radio. The other connector I have here is my radio antenna. So I just plug that into the antenna hole. Nothing complicated about that. And then before I slide this thing back in there, I'm going to hit my key and see that it works. So, power is on, and oh, I'm holding the radio upside down. Huh. There we go. So let's see if this thing turns on. Okay, I've got no power to my radio, so I know I've got an issue somewhere. So let's check first. The radio has a little 10 amp fuse on the back of it. That fuse is good. Put my little plug back in here. See, I know I've got some kind of power. But I've got no sound. So, the next thing I want to check is my radio fuse and make sure that has power. Okay, everybody, here's where we're at. So, hopefully you can see it here. So, we've got the factory radio connector here, right? And GM, in a lot of cases, I only know this from messing with them, uses orange as their power supplies. So I can see on this connector, I've got two orange wires. They're all the way on the end. And one of these is my 12 volt constant from the battery. The other is my 12 volt switched from the ignition. So one always has power, just like I said inside. The other one only has power when the key is turned on, and that's how the radio knows, okay, I need to turn on now. So in the wiring adapter connector here, my power supplies, my 12 volt constant, and my switched power are run side by side, not one above the other. So I think what's happened here, and what I need to do is get my red switched power above my yellow constant power. So I'm going to take this apart, pull that pin and move it up to where it needs to be and see if that helps me work. I checked all the fuses are good. There's power coming to the truck side plug, but it's not getting the switched power from the ignition to tell the radio, hey, turn on, the key is on. So I need to move my switched power wire up into the correct position. go. All right, and we connect. So we're still getting something. We still don't have full functionality. We still don't have full power to our radio. So we've got another issue here. I'm going to get my multimeter and double check and make sure I have power all the way into the radio connector back here. That's the only next thing I can think of, because everything else, there's power all the way to the truck side plug. So perhaps there's a problem in one of my connections, or even in this plug here. So I'll go get my, I'll go get my multimeter so I can check those connections also. So I guess that's it for this one, team. Didn't go to plan. At least I got the back of the truck put back together. I'm happy about that. And yeah, you know, I'll just have to maybe do a little bit of research, see if this is a common issue that I don't know about and there's a quick fix for it, or I'll just have to trace that wire out to figure out where the issue is, that it's not getting full voltage like it's supposed to be. Thanks a lot for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll update once I get this thing figured out. Have a great night. Welcome back, everybody. So I left this video off a couple days ago, working to get an aftermarket radio installed into the surplus Suburban. Ran into a snag, took a few days off, went on a family camping trip, enjoyed myself, also had some time to do some research, and I found out why my aftermarket radio was not working, why what I thought was the switched 12-volt power supply to the radio was only getting about a half a volt. In 2003 and newer GM trucks and cars, they do not supply a switched 12-volt to the radio. They use what's called a bus system. And basically the way that works is the radio does more than just play the radio. The radio also is connected to the system and knows when a door is open. So when you open your door and you hear that tone, the body control module sends a signal to the radio that says, hey, the door is open. Play the little door open noise. And it's actually playing the door open noise from the driver's side door speaker. So that half a volt that I was getting that I thought was a problem was actually correct. That little half volt signal is what tells the factory radio, hey, turn on. The key is in the switch. The power is engaged. We need radio. So my 2004 Suburban donor truck is what I'm sitting in right now. I'm going to take the radio out of this one because it works. And I've read both ways online. Some say that if it's from a similar year, similar vehicle, it will not require the computer to be reflashed or relearned. You can just plug it in, should be good. I've read others that say that that's not the case. If you change it from another truck, you're going to need to reprogram. So I'm just going to verify really quick that this radio works. It did when I brought it home the other day, so I'm just going to make sure again that it's still working. And then I'm going to pop it out and I'm going to go stick it into the surplus Suburban, and hopefully I'll have a working radio in that thing. So cross your fingers for me. Here we go. Okay, so let's make sure this thing works.
Connections in Hagerstown? Then turn it up.
Okay, sounds like it works to me. So that's all I need to hear. there we go. So we'll take this radio over and we'll install it in the surplus Suburban, and hopefully this thing works. Okay, here we go. So we're in the surplus Suburban now. Notice the difference. No door chime. It's because the radio plays the door chime through the speakers. So I need to get this dash surround pulled back out again. Hopefully for the last time. Let's set this over here to the side. Now my little aftermarket radio bracket here only stays in with 2 bolts, and we can actually turn the power off. So we'll get our 2 bolts out here, or screws rather. Now the other nice thing that I'm even happier that I bought the little adapter bracket now instead of cutting and splicing wires is my factory radio plug is still in here. So rather than having to splice a factory plug back into the wires, more cutting and splicing, all I have to do is unplug it from my little adapter here. And I have a factory plug there ready to go. So now the other thing I have here is somebody has put an antenna adapter on here. GM uses a smaller little antenna plug. So I want to turn the power off. I can put my little small antenna plug in here. There we go. I can connect my factory plug and sit it in here. And let's see if that gets us any noise. Do we get a door chime? No door chime. Yeah, so it's locked. Okay, well, not everything goes perfect, but at least we're one step closer now. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll be sure to update you when I figure out what I'm going to do next with this, and also bring you along for all the other stuff we've got going on with the surplus Suburban. But thanks for watching. Hope you learned something. If you didn't learn something, hopefully you at least found it entertaining. If you did, hit the like button. Leave any questions or comments you have down below. And be sure to subscribe so you see the next video as soon as it comes out. Thanks so much for watching, everybody.